Well, thank you very much. Let's turn now to this reading, Matthew's Gospel, chapter 13, and starting at verse 24. I'll ask you a question. Can you think of someone alive in the world today who you think belongs in hell?
All those that don't have Christ.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Is there an individual that comes to mind maybe? Someone you think should be in hell? No, you don't want anyone in hell? No. Maybe there are some that actually deserve to be in hell, like all of us. But what would you say if Jeffrey Epstein was still around today? Someone like that. Would you be tempted to say he deserves to be burning in hell? What if Hitler, you were in the 1940s, and you knew what Hitler had done? Would you say he should be in hell? Yeah.
Could be in heaven for all we know.
Well, it isn't for us to judge, because we do not know what happens in a person's soul towards the end of life. But well, this parable today is on the face of it a nice country story. Like the one we had last week, sowing the seed over the different types of ground and all the different responses. Well, we've got more nice sowing and harvesting going on in the lovely fields, and we've got gentle Jesus, meek and mild, telling us this nice cozy story to warm the cockles of the heart. No, it's not really, is it? No, we need to look at it a little more closely than that and see what is happening. Let's go into the world of the average Israelite, the agricultural world, in verse 24. The kingdom of heaven. Okay, something eternal, spiritual and real may be compared. You may understand it as being something like someone who sowed good seed in his field, verse 24. Now that's someone, that's the owner of the field, the one controlling the whole farming operation. But verse 25, well, everybody, meaning all the workers, it was a big operation, lots of people working to get it all done at just the right time. While all the workers, everyone was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and then went away. Something done in the darkness, under the cover of darkness. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared as well. Shock. Not what you were expecting. This farmer had sowed good seed, and where did they come from? Well, I feel like that too sometimes in our veggie garden. She sowed good seed, and where does this other stuff come from? It just keeps on coming. And maybe someone is coming in the dead of night to pluck these evil weeds. I don't know. All right.
It's not a husband that comes along and weeds the good seed that I have planted.
At least I do the weeding. I'm the only one.
God say in Genesis that we will be struggling and having to toil our soil.
Yeah, that's true in this life. All right, so let's go now to see the difference between the wheat and the tares. Now, what has been called in the King James Version tares, it's probably a species called bearded darnel. Bearded darnel. It grows up with a very similar green blade like wheat when that comes up. And then when it starts to fruit, when the head comes, that kind of looks like a wheat head, and then it changes. But the grain itself, when it's mature, when it's ripe, is black. And it's poisonous to humans. Right? You're beginning to see that this is actually a serious issue. Because if you were sowing a field, you are sowing it in anticipation of a harvest that you want to sell, okay, to buy the rest of the things that you need. And you've probably got a contract with a grain buyer. There's somewhere where it goes. And when you take that grain and it's going to be inspected, what are they going to be looking for? Okay, let's go on to see the response now in verse 28. Well, the his workers have reported that there's actually these weeds, this darnel is growing up in the harvest. And this is not just the day after, it takes weeks and weeks for it to actually become clear that it's there. And it's not just at the stage of the blades growing up. It's actually a long time later until the heads are starting to form that you know what you're dealing with. And the farmer answered, "An enemy has done this." And the slave said to him, "Then do you want us to go and gather them?" When he says an enemy has done this, that's an interesting word. I dug deep into what that means. And an enemy is someone who has hatred towards you. If you've got an enemy, that person hates you, hates what you stand for. They want to see your demise. That's what an enemy means. That's nastier than it seems on the surface, doesn't it? They hate you. They want to see your demise. Okay, should we go and gather them up? At this stage, the heads are just starting to form. You can see that they're not wet. What? And he says, "No, for in gathering the weeds, you would uproot the wheat along with them." So pulling them out will pull out the wheat plants as well with their good roots, and that's less of the good harvest that you're going to have. It's an economic equation. No, we're not going to do that now because that will harm the good crop. Let both of them grow together until harvest. And at harvest time, I will tell the reapers, collect the weeds first and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. All right, well, that's a sensible response if you understand, the root structure of these things and how they could upset the good plant growing in there. Well, like the parable of the soil we looked at last Sunday, this is one that in Matthew's Gospel, Jesus actually explains. They go away and in the privacy of the house, they ask, they want to know what it means. And the fact that the explanation has made it into the Gospel means we need to understand this. This one is important because it actually gets interpreted by Jesus himself. And so on the face of it, anyone willing to give us a quick explanation? What do you think it means? What do you think it means?
Is this Jesus' interpretation? Should we say what Jesus paraphrased?
Well, that's a good place to
because we're
start.
given the answer. So
We are.
So I've used the cheat sheet.
But what do you think this meant? Did anyone come here with an idea and understanding about this? All right. Let's dig into it. The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. That's the title, the biblical title that Jesus preferred for himself. He has been sowing seed, good seed in what? What is the field? The field is the world, and the good seed are the children of the kingdom. The weeds are the children of the evil one. Now, a lot of sermons you might have heard or Bible Bible studies or treatments of this passage may well have interpreted as the field is the church. And in the church, there is growing two types of plant. There's the good seed, the genuine Christians who have the interests of God's kingdom at heart, and then there are those that have been planted by the enemy. They appear to be Christians, but in the long run, they're going to do damage in the church. And it may well be that there's some heretical theology that they're carrying and trying to influence in the life of the church. And I think all that is true. There are people like that that are in the church and can do great harm. And how you handle them is extremely tricky. Do you go on a great witch hunt? Do you go on an inquisition and root out every sort of unorthodox thinking and put people on trial? Because there's periods in the church's life where that has happened. And it hasn't worked out very well. It's never worked out very well. But there will come a time when what they truly are will be exposed. And that's not a bad understanding, but it's actually a bad application of this parable. It's not what it's about. It's not. It's very clear that the field is not the church, it's the world. The Greek word is the cosmos. It's the whole world. And we're talking about a much bigger environment, ecosystem here. And in the world, there are those that are being planted by Christ, by Jesus, and are growing up as agents of his kingdom and good seed. And then there are those that have been planted by who? The devil. Yep, there's two names used here. There's the evil one, and then verse 38 and verse 39, the enemy and then the devil. Yeah. And it's as if it's saying that they have been sown to reap the harvest. They've been sown to do damage in the world, to do evil things, to undermine, to poison the goodness, of the majority that's going on around us, and the good work that godly people are doing, deliberately sown to cause trouble.
I think the worst trouble it does is causes the faith of Christians to waver.
Yes.
Because Christians start questioning
Yes.
what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And why.
So that's the good question, the why. Why are these bearded darnel growing in the world? Why has God allowed it? And why isn't God dealing with it? Because if you scratch not too deeply into the questions of a non-believer, it doesn't take long before they raise the question of why is there evil in the world? How did Jeffrey Epstein get away with what he did, destroying the lives of all those young women for decades? How can there be a loving God if that's the case? Well, the answer is an enemy has done this. An enemy has done this. It's not God's doing. And the owner of the field allows what is in there to grow up and for its true nature to be known. But why? Why can't we root out all evil now and prevent the harm that being taking place in the lives of future victims? Why can't we do something about it now? Lock them up, put them away, destroy them. Why can't we do something about it now? Well, the answer is it would bring more destruction than what's already happening. You see, God has got it under control. The owner of the field, the cosmos, Almighty God, does see and does know what is there and what is growing. Sees everything. And what's going to happen? All right. Verse 39, the enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. Verse 40, just as the weeds are collected and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of the age. There will be a judgment. There will be a separation. They will be rooted out of God's world. And there will be consequences. Verse 41, the Son of Man will send his angels, and they will collect out of his kingdom all causes of sin and all evildoers. So it's sin and the people themselves, evildoers. And they will throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Let anyone with ears listen. It is going to be dealt with. And it's scary, isn't it? Would you like that to happen right now? Would you like Judgment Day right now?
No,
Why not?
because there's lots of souls out there that need to be saved.
You've got it. And would you like all your sin to be exposed this afternoon? No.
Pass on that one too.
Can you see that once judgment comes, that's it? There's no more chance of any more good growth, of any more seeds growing up, any more harvest. Like pulling out the dana will uproot the good seeds, the good plants growing as well. Yeah.
Andrew, by the sound of it, in the early stages, the darnel growing, you can't tell it from
You can't tell. No.
And that's really a picture too of a lot of these people who, you have to let them grow and reveal their true colours.
Yes.
And that happens
Yes.
at the harvest time.
Yes.
Also, they talk about uprooting, but actually you do just as much damage having to tread all the way through
To
to
get.
get all the plants.
to
They'll
get
probably
to-
trample or destroy
That's right.
more. So it's quite,
Yeah.
it's quite a smart strategy
Yeah.
to let the thing actually defeat itself by exposing itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And often isn't that what happens in the political environment too, in countries with strong leaders that get elected and then turn and reveal themselves to be really quite evil people, sick, evil people. It
The
takes
Antichrist.
time.
The Antichrist will be the same, won't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so it's actually the mercy of God that we do not have judgment right now. Because there's friends and loved ones who do not yet know God. And it means that's the end. The day of salvation is over once judgment comes. Jesus said, today is the day of salvation. It's still that day of salvation. And despite what we see growing around us, God's mercy is still with us, that people's hearts might turn to God, confess their sins, be born again. You know, this is a scary picture of people being gathered up by the angels, judged, bound, and then thrown into the furnace of fire, verse 42. This is gentle Jesus here, speaking here. You know, you hear some people say, I don't like what's in the letters in the New Testament, don't like Paul's sort of stuff, but Jesus, yes. The gospel that Jesus preaches, his loving, accepting, tolerant words like this. And it's not just here. There's the real pictures of what it will be like on that day before Son. And the horrible thing about it is that with bodies resurrected at judgment, those resurrected bodies cannot be killed. They will not be consumed by the fire, but they will suffer. That's just the most horrible thing for those who are lost. And let this picture of weeping and gnashing of teeth spur us on while it is still day, the day of salvation, to bring the good news to others, even maybe some who are at this stage living evil lives. It's not too late. They can turn around. Most won't, because of the very nature being expressed. But they still can. There's still an opportunity. And then there's those, the great majority, that just go with the great majority and don't know what they're missing and don't know what they have rejected. The same fate awaits if they do not turn to Christ. Verse 43, then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. And then there's this phrase again at the end of this parable, and it's not at the end of all of them. Let anyone with ears listen. This is Jesus saying, this matters. You've got to understand this. This is not a picture of the church. Yes, it can be applied to the church, but it's a picture of the world that God made and loves so much that he sent the Son for those who would otherwise come under judgment and receive that eternal punishment. This is God's mercy. Judgment is delayed, that all might be saved. So let us take this good news and share it with others. It's sobering news, but there is grace and salvation still available. So let us pray. I invite you now to make intercessions as the Spirit leads, maybe for individuals, for our world, country, our church. Let us pray.